Federal Drive is presented by GEHA, Government Employees Health Association, proudly providing health and dental benefits to federal employees and their families. Visit GEHA.com.
The federal government's landlord and its Human Resources Office are embarking on plans to share the same headquarters. The Office of Personnel Management and the General Services Administration are moving together under one roof. This is the latest example of agencies in Washington, D.C. moving out of headquarters that aren't meeting minimum occupancy requirements recently set by law. Federal News Network's Jory Heckman is all over this one. Jory, welcome aboard.
Hey, Eric. Great to be here.
All right. So what is the plan, actually? I saw this news pop up yesterday, and not many details right away, but what did you find out?
So the plan right now, this summer, GSA is going to temporarily move over to the Office of Personnel Management's headquarters, not too far away, the Theodore Roosevelt Federal Building. GSA and OPM will cohabitate that building for a period of time, for a couple of years, while renovations go underway at GSA's headquarters at 1800 F Street. It's going to take more than 2 years to fully renovate that building. And once those renovations are complete, beginning in December of 2028, the plan is for GSA to move back to its headquarters and bring OPM with them. They're going to bring OPM employees back to 1800 F Street, and they are going to then turn around and sell OPM's old headquarters, sell the Theodore Roosevelt building, put them up for accelerated disposal. So we heard some of these details from GSA Administrator Ed Forst. Here's what he had to say about the plan. He says that GSA and OPM are leading the way for other agencies to consolidate space they don't need.
For too long, the federal government has paid for space it doesn't use, buildings it cannot afford to maintain, and in some cases cannot even occupy. That ends now.
GSA Administrator Ed Forst there. So he explains a little bit of the thinking behind this, but what are some of the goals of this plan?
So the goal really is consolidation here. The goal is also cost savings. GSA has long complained that its headquarters is in need of modernization, and about 40% of its usable office space is uninhabitable because some of these wings of its buildings have not been renovated since it was originally built in 1917. GSA's headquarters, fun fact, was originally built to serve as the Interior Department's headquarters, but GSA has been the occupant for decades now. And so GSA is of the opinion that as the federal government's landlord, they should be leading the way here in consolidation. So these renovations are necessary to not just house GSA employees, but to bring in OPM employees as well. It looks like OPM is only about half occupying the Theodore Roosevelt building. And under the recently signed Use It Act, this is something that President Joe Biden signed in his last days in office, that requires agencies to achieve at least a 60% minimum occupancy standard on average. And if they don't get there, then they should do something to right-size their office space, and many times that means exactly what we're looking at here, co-locating agencies and consolidating offices that they can't fully fill.
How much money up front is this plan expected to cost, and any idea of when the savings will start to erase some of that initial cost up front?
Well, GSA didn't get back to me immediately on some of the details of the plan, but there is a prospectus on its website for what appears to be this plan here, and that would bring this project total cost to around $239 million in total. And it really does go about some of the long-term cost savings that we've talked about, closing out the Theodore Roosevelt building and cost savings there. Not quite sure on the details at this point, but expected to save money in the long term.
Speaking here with Federal News Network reporter Jory Heckman about the planned cohabitation by GSA and OPM. And I recollect the Trump administration did try to merge these agencies at one point in time. Is that still the goal, or is this just kind of the best they could get, maybe?
So we heard this directly from OPM Director Scott Cooper, that unequivocally no, that is not the case, that these are conversations that are not going on today. But you're right. This is something that the first Trump administration did propose. They proposed merging OPM and GSA, not just in terms of having the same office space, but really merging them in all functions that they do. GSA, of course, provides a number of support services to agencies, and similarly, so does OPM. And so that was the plan under the first administration. And they, of course, walked away from those plans. They are still separate entities. Here's what Cooper had to say about those talks and whether they have any viability in the second Trump administration.
Those conversations are not live today. We're excited to be partnering with Ed in terms of real estate, and there's lots of things obviously our organizations do together, but there's no discussion around consolidating the organizations of GSA and OPM other than in our physical footprint here.
We've been hearing about other moves by other agencies to consolidate space and moving into other buildings and whatnot. It's almost hard to keep up, and I'm sure it was something that you hadn't planned on when you accepted the federal real estate beat. What other agencies are doing similar moves like this?
It's a growing list. Right now, we've been tracking that the Trump administration is planning to sell part of the headquarters complex for the Agriculture Department. It's planning to move out the Department of Housing and Urban Development fairly soon. They're going to be taking over the headquarters formerly occupied by the National Science Foundation over in Alexandria across the river. The Education Department, of course, is being dismantled under this administration, and they are looking to move into office space previously held by USAID. And as for the old Education Department, well, the Energy Department is planning to take over their headquarters space, and Education would close its current headquarters building, the Forrestal building, that is likely a candidate for being sold and disposed of.
Federal News Network reporter Jory Heckman giving us the literal moves of federal agencies. Thank you as always.
Thanks, Eric.